Mic check 1 2 1 2. Hey fam, what is good? What is up? Daphne here again. In case this is your first video of me, hi, my name is Daphne Eugene. I am a Black American, a Black Haitian American woman living here in Vienna, and it'll be 10 years since I've lived in Europe, and I am finally sharing my story. So welcome to my channel, and stay tuned because this is much more than me storytelling. This is me showing you my life here. I spent my 30s in Europe. I can't wait to share all the juicy gossip and all the juicy details of it. But before we continue, the last video, if you saw it, I left Miami, I moved to Texas, I moved to New York, and then I am going to talk about how I left New York, my cushy corporate job, to move to California. I'm going to talk about how I didn't even have a place to stay up until I think midway on my drive there. I did drive cross country. I left Miami and I drove all the way to LA. So yeah, that's what this video about. And I mean, my story is just to share, is just to motivate or inspire, whatever you choose, whatever in this life that you have a decision to make, whatever you want to do in life, do it. Do it scared. You know what I mean? Because what is this life if we're not challenging ourselves? And lately, like, I've been thinking about how curiosity is what has been keeping me going. At this point, I'm just curious. I just want to know what's next. I just want to know how this gets done. I just want to know, like, I'm a very curious person. As much people like to say, oh, curiosity, killed the cat. I like to tell my little satisfaction brought him back, because it did. And so this is what my video is going to be about. It's going to be about me leaving my home once again. And yes, it was scary, but you know what I did? Listen, I packed fear up with me in the back of my car, back of my Mazda 3. And drove it across to LA with me. Because one thing I'm not gonna say, or like, I'm never gonna say I wasn't scared or I wasn't skeptical or that there wasn't doubt. There was doubt, there was fear, it was there. But when it is your destiny, it is part of your journey to do something, you have to pack it along with you. Because the thing is, the more you do things, the more fear goes away. And we all know that our brain is trying to keep us safe. Listen, brain, we good. We good. You know why? Because God got us, period. So, where did I leave off? So I left off, I was in Brooklyn. I moved to my friend's house in Jersey City. My boss at the time, I was an office manager for a construction firm. My boss at the time said that he would pay for schooling if I stayed in New York. However, New York schools were extremely expensive. New York has always been expensive, right? So I was like, no, it's fine. I applied to the Cordon Bleu in California, and I got in with grants, I think, and a scholarship. Yeah, so here I am packing my life up in New York. I lived in Jersey City for a couple of months with a friend while I was waiting to transition, and honestly, I don't remember how I got myself back home. I don't know if I rented a car. I think that part might have been so stressful that I blurted out my memory. But I just remember going back home, or I might have flown. Honestly, I just might have packed all my stuff, and whatever I couldn't take, I just threw out or left somewhere. I think I have boxes still in Texas. I have stuff still in LA for sure. I might have some stuff in New York. So if you have my stuff, you can sell it or you can toss it. At this point, I don't even remember what I left behind, okay? Come on. Would you focus on me? Okay. So now that's there. So we left New York, and then I got home. Obviously, I was home with a plan. I was like, all right, cool, we're gonna buy a car. So we bought a brand new Mazda 3 white. For some reason, I have this thing with white cars. I love white cars. That's the only car that I ever wanted. It's the only car I've ever driven, a white car, which I'm okay with. Whatever car I get, it's gonna be white. Yeah. I don't know what it is about white cars, but I just feel like that clean look. So I bought the car. I recalled my best friend. I was just like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And she was like, oh, I'm free and nothing. I was like, okay, bet, we're driving across to California. I was like, okay. And so, of course, packed up the Mazda. And before I left, I remember I was on Airbnb because I didn't have a place to stay at. And I was communicating with them, and I booked the Airbnb. But then after further research, I realized the Airbnb was way further than the school. This was just to give me time to find an apartment. And so when I realized that, I canceled immediately for the month. And of course, they tried to do the little thing where they couldn't give my money back. I'm like, we're not doing that. And so I canceled it, I disputed it, whatever. And so we started driving. We started driving up Florida. And if you know Florida, this is from Miami. Florida is a long state. Drove up out of Florida. And I don't know if it was like maybe Tampa area or maybe even like Tallahassee or whatnot. I remember I was on Craigslist. Do you remember Craigslist? I was on Craigslist and I was like emailing people looking for apartments. I found one and I emailed her, and it was just funny because I'm over here moving to a whole different city. I didn't have an apartment. I didn't have a job. I just knew I was going to school. Well, obviously, I obviously needed money to sustain that, you know, pay rent and to, you know, eat and all that other stuff. And paid a car. Like literally the bills were there. But I just knew I was going to school. I just knew. And I, like, my friend's like, so wait, you don't have an apartment? No, God will provide. Like, and he did. So we're driving up on a thing. I'm looking for apartments. And then at some point between the journey, I think by the time I got to Texas, me and the girl was communicating back and forth. And I later found out that the only reason that she said yes to me being her roommate was because on my email signature was Jeremiah 29:11. Yeah, that was my signature because it's true. It is so true. And so I'm like, I don't know why I just got a blank. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for your life, plans to prosper you and succeed. So I was just like, that's it. I said, God, like, my life is in your hands, period. And so drove across there, see my family across the different states. We did the Route 66. We stopped at different places. We just turned it into a whole trip, and I just really enjoyed it. And I laugh at this now, but when we got to LA, so she texted me. She was like, hey, I'll be here, but I'll leave the keys in the bush for you. And I was like, okay, you know. And so we get to California. I think we got to California way at night, and we're looking in the bushes. We get the keys. Mind you, this is two black women in California looking through bushes for keys. We get the keys. We get to the apartment. We move my stuff in. You know, we're there for my friend is there for a couple of days. And after that, I think like the next week or two, I start school. And so I eventually meet my roommate and everything like that. Hey, Arissa. I still communicate with her. Like, she's a beautiful soul. I love her. She's actually a fan. Go Gators. And so she, I laugh at the fact that she didn't know me from scratch. I didn't know her, but she trusted me and she trusted herself enough to leave the keys in the bush. There's a ram in the bush, y'all. You know, and I'm just like, or just to trust me. She's not even there just to, you know, but you trust a total stranger to move into the place. I could have been crazy, but the Lord knew. Okay. And I'm very thankful. She could have been crazy. I don't know, but here I am meeting strangers on Craigslist and moving into their apartment. But it was like a match made in heaven. And one thing, when you decide to do something faithfully and you've talked to God about it, God has confirmed it, you don't have to worry. Like, I think nowadays we worry too much about the next step before we even take the first step. Take the first step. The next thing is going to come forward, you know, and that has been so prevalent in my life. And, you know, as scary as it has been, but faithfully take the first step. Once that step, you know, and that's how we walk anyway. We take one step and then the foot moves in front. That's what you have to do. And so I bought a car, I got to the place, you know, I'm going to school. And so now I'm in culinary school. And culinary school is only like 18 months. And so decided to go to culinary school, did that, lived in LA. I think I had a couple of friends in LA actually. And it was just, my LA experience was really amazing. I loved it. And I remember going to school, I always said that once I graduate school, I did not want to be the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the kitchen hierarchy. And so, and obviously, like, you are your intern, you're a commis, and then there's a demi, and then, so it's a hierarchy, and I was just like, I don't want to be at the bottom of the barrel. I'm already a student. And mind you, I started my chef career rather late comparable to other people. I was 28 when I started culinary school. People be starting that stuff at 15, 16, 17. Okay. Especially here, we have like 14-year-olds working in the kitchen. And I mean, they're in school, but it's the system I actually like, because if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I was 28, starting a brand new career, and it was amazing. And so while I was in school, I think after the first semester, I was able to get a temporary job. And so I was working for a temp agency that they put the job post online, you apply for it, and then you just go work for the day or a couple of hours or whatever. And I met amazing chefs. I worked for amazing people. I worked at Hotel Bel Air, where I worked with Wolfgang Puck and their chefs there. And I also worked for the Grammys. Like, I literally worked, and that was just like the beginning, of my career. And so I remember I worked, I got a temporary job at a hotel, the Langham, and I worked there so long, I got along with everyone, whatever, and they offered me a permanent job. And I was just like, I'm that girl. And I mean, I was in school. I was still in school, but because I was like actively like trying to find, so I was like learning while I was in school. And so, because I didn't want to be the bottom of the barrel. As a student, I didn't mind because I was still learning the basics and the foundations. And that was it, and even in school, like I remember, I don't know what it is, but no matter where you go, for some reason, there's going to be some insecure person or people that will they consider you as competition. I don't compete with nobody but myself. It's me versus me. Daphne versus Daphne. Every single day. There is no one I'm in competition with. Because we all have our own lane. We all have our own stories. We all have our own things that we're trying to do. Just because we're maybe in the same arena, don't mean we're in the same lane, buddy. So, I remember having people, and I'm very like, people would try to race me to see how fast they can cut a brunoise or this and that. And I would just be like, oh, okay, whatever. And I just calmly, I go at it, not thinking about them, whatever. And I would finish first. It might not be the cleanest. Because again, one thing about me is better than yesterday. I'm going to try to do better for myself than the next day. And so that was that. So we did that. And so that was culinary school. Now, the part where it's just like, well, how did you get to Europe? How did you get to Germany? How did you get to Vienna? And so while I was in school, I think it was July 2025. I lied. That's last year. July 2015. My bad, y'all. July 2015. I was turning 29. And I remember I wanted a party. And I had... I decided to have a theme party, an 80s theme party. And so my hair was blonde. I'm trying to put pictures in this video just so I get the gist of, what it looked like at that time. My hair was blonde, I had a blonde bob, and I remember I streaked it with purples and the blues and the green, just because it's 80s. It was neon, it was bright. So I'm like, this is perfect. And so I did that. And I remember I was in school. Mind you, it wasn't allowed for work or anything, but I just remember I did that and I tried to hide it. But I remember when I went to school, there was like a flyer, because they always had job postings and different things that you can apply for. And there was a job posting that it was with the American military, and you would be a contractor, and they were looking for cooks. It was in a village. I didn't even know how to pronounce before I left there. I didn't even know that village existed. But apparently the American military has a resort there for rest and relaxation for military soldiers and their families to come together and relax. And so I applied for it. And the next day was after my birthday party, when my hair was like streaked, right? Now I was like, Daph, do I want to go to the interview? Do I want to actually do the job? But I wasn't sure. But I was just like, you know what? Just try it out, see what happens. But I was just like, oh, should I change my hair? What should I do? And it just so happens that I did apply for it. I did change my hair. Then it was just like straight blonde. I did I think a blonde pixie. And I went to the interview. And I walked into the interview room, and it was a Irish man that was in charge of HR at the time. I don't know if he's still there. Hey, Neil. I'm not sure if he's still there or not. And he told me, before he said anything else, the first question was, does your hair change color? I was like, excuse me? He was like, does your hair change color? Like, does it, you know, do you do purple? Do you do? And I was like, no, but I can go back black if you need me to. You know, he was like, well, no, it's just that it's military position, so that it's very, you have natural hair colors, no tattoos, well, no visible tattoos, not a lot of piercings. And so I was just like, oh, okay. I said, no. I said, it's cool. I was just like, I can, you know, I said, if you need me to, I can go back black. That's more, go back a natural color. He's like, no, this is fine. I was like, okay, good. Y'all, in my head, listen, I was sweating. Because I was just like, Lord, what if I didn't change my hair? I would have automatically been disqualified. Okay? Listen to your instincts. I would have automatically been disqualified because my hair was, again, blonde with like streaks of purple or streaks of blues and stuff like that. Like, so I was just happy that I did that. And so, but I was just like, okay, cool. So I applied for the position. I had the interview. He told me everything about it. I was like, okay, cool. And then after that, I waited. And then I remember I got the offer, and I was the only one during that time frame that got accepted for the position over there. And because many people applied, obviously, but I was just like, all right, cool. Well, they called me, and I remember I had to renew my passport and do all these things. And by February 20, okay, so that cut out when it needed to cut out. But by February 2016, or January 2016, I got my orders, my shipping orders, my flight information, my ticket and everything, and packed up my bags, and I left California February 21st, 2016. And I didn't, like, again, and the place, so the small village town is called Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Oh, but I got candy on my mouth. Let's check out the yoga mat. So Garmisch-Partenkirchen, small village south of Germany. Never knew it existed, but it does. And the hotel name is Edelweiss. That's the name of it. I have no connections as of right now. I have no connections with them. If you guys have more information, particularly during my time, so it was a 15, so originally, my bad, originally it was a 15-month contract with the option to extend if they liked you. So I left February 21st. I got there February 22nd. I landed in Garmisch and got acquainted. And I particularly remember the ride from the Munich airport. We landed in Munich, and the drive down there was like, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours almost. And it was just the most beautiful, picturesque, like you driving in and like you see like the mountains, and it's like, and like, of course it was snowing, and so it was the snow cap. It's very beautiful. If you ever have a chance to go down to Garmisch, you don't need to, but it's nice. So yeah, so the drive, so I meet up with, there's obviously other Americans that's also doing the thing. I think our class was 14 to 16 people. Very cool guys. I still have some connections with some of them. Others I don't. But I just remember one particular time, like one particular moment in the van. We're trying to get to know each other. Mind you, I'm just quiet in the back. I don't say anything. And you know, the guys are like talking about their experience and their education. Like, oh yeah, I got this and I got that. Mind you, these guys were younger than me because I was 29 at that point. And I was like, okay, you know, you have this, you have that. And they was like, oh, Daphne, what about you? You know, this and that. Mind you, they were talking about like their degrees. And it was like, yeah, I have my bachelor's. And I'm like, okay, you know, cool. And I'm not one to brag, okay? But they kept asking. And I was just like, well, I have my bachelor's in this, my master's in this, and I just picked up my culinary degree. And I have experience in corporate America, yada, yada. And it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna get my master's next. Okay, cool, congratulations. And so that was the atmosphere like we were going into. And of course, it's always like, in many situations, I was only the black woman. Like, I was always the only black person there. And it didn't bother me. I was just like, there's gonna be situations where you are the only black person. But do I love to be surrounded by my people? I do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just home, you know, in a sense. But so that was that. We got our room stuff. The housing director, he paired everyone based on, so I got paired with another girl that was from Florida, I believe, or went to UF, I think, and she was a ski instructor, which is totally cool because I was just like, oh, that is so nice that you paired me with her at the end. I think because she was older, more mature. So I was like, that's perfect. And me and the housing director got really cool, and so I was kind of able to get whatever I want when I wanted it. So got paired with her, and she was just like, Daph, whatever you want, a ski lesson, just let me know whenever you're off. I was like, girl, okay. But yeah, so my experience at Advice, I'm trying to see how short and sweet I want to keep this part. It was an experience, absolutely, and 15 months turned into 3 years, and I eventually left in 2019. It left a bad taste in my mouth when I left. What else? So yeah, so my first year as a cook, I was on breakfast, of course, so that's where they start you. Okay, that's where they start everybody at the bottom. You start at breakfast, and so I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but the fun part was you were done by, I think, like 2, and so you had the whole day to do whatever. And I remember we would like take the train to cross over to Austria. That was my first trip, let's say. Went to Austria, went to Innsbruck, because it was only an hour train ride away, and then you can explore the city and then just come back, you know. And so we did that many times. Garmisch became a little family. I met so many other Americans because there's obviously the hotel and then there's a base across, and so the mingling is there. And then I eventually became a sous chef, and then once I became sous chef, things got tricky. The management changed, chefs changed, and changes were happening. Sometimes change is good, sometimes people are annoying and change is like, but like there are certain like things that happen that I remember, and I think that has like changed my who I am and how I deal with people. And I've learned very fast, even in New York, to be very direct. When there's conflict, I'm very direct, because I'm like, I need to know what's happening, what's going on. And so I remember there was one guy, he was also a sous chef, and apparently he felt threatened by me, and he would go, because he would pick stupid fights. Like, why are you picking a fight with me? We are on the same level. And I remember one time he said something, or he tried to give me a directive, which was wrong. And I just ignored him. I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. But he was being he was like poking the bear, just poking the bear. And he ran to our head chef at the time. And hi, Dave. And shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy was amazing as well. He ran to the head chef, and the head chef was kind of just like laughing. And he told me, he was like, Dad, you kind of gotta chill, because I was like, are you serious? I said, this guy has been here like 11 years, that's my senior, but yet he feels threatened by me? Like, who am I? Like, why would you feel threatened? I learned from you. Like, how you threatened because... And so it got so bad that I went to the HR director, and I had to go to the HR director. I was just like, is he higher than me, or are we at the same pay level? Like, or are we at the same level? And he was just like, no, you guys are like equal. I said, bet. And so once he said that, I was just like, all right, cool. I was just like, we can communicate, but what you're not going to do is disrespect me. If I make a decision, the decision is set. We can talk about the decision afterwards, and if there's something to correct it, okay, maybe. But you're not going to come, at me and stuff. And so, of course, I would say things that he would make it a big deal out of no reason. And then there was like the other people, and he was just too fake. I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And then we had a new hotel assistant director, I think. And he just wanted to change so many different things. And he wasn't, okay? Apparently he had a background in y'all. And this is just the truth, okay? This is just my experience. I'm not saying everyone else will have the same experience or had the same experience, but my time there, that was my experience. I had an amazing time there. I met amazing people. You know what I'm saying? But there were, I think, the cusp of me leaving, there was like a time where it was so depressive, like, because at that point I was just like, oh, let me apply to become permanent. Now, my boss was also leaving at that time, and he already agreed to make me permanent, but the executive hotel director, the assistant, whatever, he had the issue with the kitchen. And I remember I emailed him, made an appointment with him, and I sat down in his office, and I was like, do you have an issue with the kitchen? And he was taken aback, because he would never come to us to say anything, but he would go around other people, and then other people come and tell us. And I'm just like, he was just in the kitchen. Why didn't he just communicate with us? Like, I didn't get that. And like, I'm very solution based. If you have a problem, let's fix it now. Let's do what we have to do. Let's fix it now. Let's get it over with. Because what we're not gonna do is go back and forth. And so he was like, oh no, so why? Like, I was like, I just have this huge sense that you do not like the kitchen. Like, anytime you need to come in, you don't really come in and communicate with us. And so I was giving him point. I made a whole bullet, like a PowerPoint, giving him bullet by bullet by bullet, because for me, I was just like, in order to run a successful business or a kitchen, like, communication is key. And if there's something that you don't like or you want us to change, just let us know that, and we can work on it. We can like talk together and we can work on that. But he would badmouth the kitchen. And so I was just like, okay, no. And so, so like towards that end, I remember like not being happy, like the joy of it wasn't there. And so, of course, so at that time, and come to find out, I didn't get my permanent, the decision was made to not make me permanent, which I was just like, okay. And so that was like 2019, summer of 2019. And so I was just like, oh, like, what's next for me? And at the time, somebody was like, hey, there's a hotel that hires Americans. If you want to stay here in Germany, you can apply to that hotel as a chef because they're looking for chefs. And so then I'm like, okay, cool. So it was either that, and I also applied for a job with the base as a cook for the school. And so I applied, like, I remember I applied for the job. So at this point, I'm at a crossroad, okay? I applied for the job at the prestigious hotel. And the email sent back was just like, oh, we don't have any positions opening. And then so I told the guy, he was like, no, there's positions. He's like, just go up there and ask for the chef. Sometimes in life, things are happening. You're connected to it somehow. You don't know, but you have to do your part in order to fall into place. So I remember I got off of work one day, still in my chef clothes. I rented a car and I drove down to the location, and I was just like, I introduced myself, I give my resume, and that day the chef wasn't there. It was someone else. She was, I think, the sous chef at the time, and or was it the other way around? But no, it was the other way around. So basically, I went in with my I went in with my chef coat and my knives, because I was just like, if they need me to start today or they need me to do a practice, I would do a practice. So I just came prepared to work. And so I met with the chef, and he was a brand new chef. He just got there as well. He just started, I think, about a month ago. And of course, they were looking and stuff. And so I saw the kitchen, and he was like, okay, yeah. And so I remember having the interview with him, and they said, okay, well, I told him my situation. I was like, I'm leaving, I'm flying back to America because my contract with the American base was finished. And when I'm back in, I said, when I'm back, I can come back in Germany, have the interview, whatever the case was. And they said, okay, no problem. So we stayed in communication, right? I left Germany, I flew back home, and I remember I was like, I'm going back. I'm going back. And so my friend we were celebrating July 4th in Vegas. We went to Vegas, had a good time. Mind you, 2019, like summer 2019, I was not feeling myself. I turned 33 that year. I was like very depressed, and you could physically tell, like I just was not happy. And because I was depressed because I was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna get this job. I don't know, like I don't want to come back to America. I just don't want to come back to America. Because once you live European life or a life outside of America, it's different, completely different. And so I was like, all right. I remember I was in Vegas, and before I think the second night, whatever, I looked at tickets to Germany. I bought a one-way ticket to Germany, not having a job, not having anywhere to stay. I still had friends there, so they had apartments, whatever. And so for 1 month, I went back because I had two job opportunities. I applied for both, and then I ended up getting both offers. And then that was another crossroad where I was just like, do I stay with the U.S. military in Germany, where I literally get all the holiday, like there were benefits to it, but there's also like, do you want to cook just for kids, or do you want to cook in fine dining, elegant style, German style? So I was like, oh, this is tough, especially like money wise and everything like that. And the good thing with the other hotel is that they have housing, because it's in the mountains, so they have housing, and so they'll put you in a place. They have places for you to stay. So I walked on as a chef. So I decided to choose the German hotel and get on the economy. Now that was a different thing in itself, getting a German visa, getting situated, in a small town, getting all the process working, waiting, and everything like that, which we will talk about in the next video. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me on this journey as I share my story. If this helps you in any way, or if you have any questions, please leave it down in the comments below. I welcome everything, and let me know where you're coming from. Let me know where you're watching this from. Would love to know where my audience is coming from. And yeah, once again, thank you for watching. My name is Daphne Eugene, and this is me telling my story, how I spent the last 10 years living in Europe as an American, exploring, traveling, being challenged, and living life all by the grace of God. I hope this inspires you or motivates you to do the next thing for your life. I will see you guys next time. Bye. Cheers.